Alright everyone, I figured it was time for an end of the year sort of roundup of all of the main YouTube video hosting alternatives to give my thoughts on the good and the bad of each of those 6 sites. Now I'm not including Vimeo and Veoh because they're primitive and they suck, and they're more censored than YouTube, so there's literally no purpose to using them. Nor am I including Gab.tv, not because I don't like it. I use Gab, but I haven't checked their video service. I don't even know whether it's got live streaming or whether it's standalone. So I would have to actually use it before I could, add it in a video. So I'll be focused on Bitchute, Rumble, Odyssey, Brighteon, Dailymotion, and Minds here. Now, first and foremost, of course, I'm going to put aside my intrinsic bias because I've got 120,000 almost subscribers on Bitchute. I'm nowhere near that size on the other platforms. So I'm going to have to put that bias on the side, because there are definitely things about Bitchute that desperately need work, so we'll get into it. So number one is Bitchute. This is the main video hosting alternative that I've used. And I would say the good things about it, number one, it appears to have the most engaged audience. And number two, the largest overall, other than Dailymotion, but with Dailymotion the engagement's lower, and we'll have to get into that. On Bitchute, the engagement level that I get, when I compare the number of subscribers to the number on YouTube, if I create that ratio, it's similar to the ratio of daily views. And at this point, with YouTube shadow banning me, arguably I get more daily views as far as new uploads on Bitchute than I do on YouTube. That's significant. The number of comments is, again, as a ratio, relatively significantly similar. If you have engagement levels that are similar to YouTube on a platform where you've traditionally had very high engagement as a creator, I'm definitely on the upper tier when it comes to the comments, the viewership, and so forth, even with the shadow ban as far as audience engagement goes. I think part of that is my accessibility. Part of that is the fact that I'm not just sitting there making one video a week at 4K and calling it a day. I tend to be more of a workhorse, I think, than that. If the rate is similar, then my goodness, it's got to be a fairly viable site. Another positive is it's fully funded. In fact, it's more than fully funded. Their monthly rolling goal is $30,000. I think it's 34 right now. So Ray Vahi must be chuckling at the moment and thinking of new projects. And that's the other thing is when you are more than fully funded, you can potentially work on things faster. You can hire a bit more manpower and get things, I think, knocked into place quicker. Now the drawbacks of Bitchute. While it's vastly improved over the beginning of this year, you have a much better search, their system overall is more stable, less missing uploads, faster processing. It still has a long way to go to be anything near YouTube. It doesn't have high def, although they've announced that they'll have it. It doesn't have live streaming, although again, they're planning it for this subsequent year. The two biggest problems on site remain the following. There's an app, it's called Bitslide, but you can't find it on the Google Play Store. My advice to them has been to clone their own app and re-release it under a different name, and keep doing that every time that Google tries to screw with them. If that doesn't work, because clearly, I mean, it's a double standard. When most of the videos on Bitchute are the same as the ones on YouTube, and they're blocking it for objectionable content links, that's bullshit. It's anti-competitive behavior, and Bitchute, if it were larger, I'm sure would be considering a legal case. They need a better app, because Bitslide, although it was getting better, still had some quirks. They need to do whatever they can to popularize it off the Play Store in the meantime, clone the app, put it back on the Play Store with a different name, and just keep doing that and make it clear it's illegitimate, we're going to keep fighting the censorship. App is number one, because most people aren't like me using, the desktop experience. And number two is search, especially for those of us that use the desktop. Search is still shitty. Part of this is the tagging system. When you upload a video on Bitchute, you don't get the option to put the tags in right away. You have to wait till it processes, go back to the video, and add them manually. Why is that a thing? It doesn't really make a lot of sense now, does it? None of the other video sites have this particular quirk. This is Bitchute. The chink in the armor of Bitchute is ultimately searchability. If you can't search for the material, then other than the online echo chamber sort of pool of people, you're not really reaching out beyond that unless they share it out. And on some sites like Twitter and Google, they make it non-searchable anyway. So those are the things that need to be worked on. So the pros, very large, very engaged, especially for me, and not just for me. A lot of people got onto it much earlier than some of the other alternatives, which has made a much better community overall, in my opinion. But if you can't search through that community, if you can't expand it, it has problems. Number 2 would be Rumble. Now keep in mind, Rumble is not Alttech. It's like Dailymotion. It's a YouTube alternative, but it is not specifically free speech tech. I think the biggest advantage to Rumble is they got Bongino. They've got a backer to the tune of millions of dollars. They're fully solvent. They were there in 2013, so they do have an established core user base, although I hadn't even heard of it until the last year or so. As far as usability, the upload system, again, would be a problem in the sense that they have it's overly complex. Just try to use their upload system. It's kind of convoluted, but it's very fast. The processing and so forth is good. The only other issue, I think, with the site that I could identify is the fact that it's not specifically, again, it's more like a Parler to a Gab, Rumble is to Alttech. It's not specifically billing itself as a free speech alternative to YouTube, simply as a YouTube alternative, which means you still have the editorialization issue. It's just less prevalent because they don't really have a problem with, I guess, politically edgy speech. In time, though, if Rumble continues to grow, that could be an issue. Just saying. That would be the other thing. As far as the user base size, I've already got 10,000 subscribers there in only a couple of months, I think, or not even quite 2 months. Even if you have a large starting audience, it's kind of difficult to get that many people to use another site to watch your content. The engagement level may be lower than like Bitchute or even potentially Odyssey, but the potential audience retention and growth is quite high. That's a good thing for Rumble. Number 3 is Odyssey. I like Odyssey. It's more decentralized than the other alternatives. I've spoken with the leader there, and apparently it's, I think, based in New Hampshire, which is the state I was born in, which is funny. I think, wasn't Omegle initially a Vermont company based in Brattleboro? One of those ones was. One of the Omegle, or one of the sites that was like it anyway, it's like, you got this little tiny area around the Connecticut River is actually pumped full of tech, and people don't even fucking realize it. Odyssey is intermediate in size. I like the decentralization. It's more searchable, although that still has quirks. I would say, though, the learning curve for Odyssey is greater than the other sites. It doesn't appear as much like YouTube. Odyssey as a service is, I think, better than the initial library service. It looks a little bit more streamlined, but it's not quite there. It's going to confuse a lot of people because they're going to get to it. They're not going to understand how to use it. It's like everything is encrypted and crypto and all of these things that a lot of normies just don't understand. I can understand them a bit, but ultimately it's more confusing. The other thing is there's lower audience engagement. I've got over 20,000 subscribers there, but the engagement level is arguably lower than what I've got on Rumble with 10. That being said, I think that a lot of people use it for passive uploading only, and that's a big problem. It needs more active uploading. I've thought about doing exclusives there and probably will in the near future. We'll see what kind of additional audience engagement you get. That's the other problem. I'm not going to judge it too harshly because I haven't done that. So it's not like Bitchute. On Bitchute, I've been making exclusives for a year. On Odyssey, I haven't. So I'm going to cut him some slack on that, but the searchability still, and just the general look and feel of the site is more, it's more tech literate. It's more like using Linux, but you're a Windows user. There's a learning curve there that you don't suffer with these other sites, except, again, I would argue, on Bitchute or Rumble with uploads. Other than the uploads, I'd say those sites are more overall usable, and Bitchute search being primitive. Number 3 would be Brighteon. Of all of these sites, other than Dailymotion, maybe Brighteon's the most like YouTube, so it's definitely more familiar. And the communication level, I was able to communicate with them very easily, and was very quick, and I like the system. It's quite streamlined. Search is good. It's got a lot of people that make exclusives, like I think Brother Nathaniel's on there and stuff like that. Take it or leave it, depending on whether you like that sort of content. It is very much pro-free speech. The explicit libertarian feel of the site is very much there. However, it's a lot smaller than all of the others. Brighteon is considerably smaller than any of the other sites that I'm mentioning. Probably an order of magnitude smaller, even than any of them. Possibly 2 orders of magnitude smaller than something like Bitchute. Therefore, unless it's one of the core individuals that got on early, like a Brother Nathaniel, I think Santilli uses it, a few others, and some of the alternative health channels and stuff. People who were purged from YouTube a couple years ago, they flocked to Brighteon, a lot of them, and built up native audiences. but it's very insular. People are looking at that core of material, and the newer users, including yours truly, despite my my huge audience on other sites, don't get as much traction. Even when I share it out, when I popularize it, the engagement level is simply organically lower. If that can change, I mean, if it becomes more popularized, it's fast, searchability is high, it's a good site, it's well built overall. Next would be Dailymotion. I realize Dailymotion is older, I believe, than YouTube. It's not a free speech alternative to YouTube. In fact, it is censored. But the censorship's different because it's not based in the United States. France doesn't have the same kinds of censorship quirks. In fact, the biggest censorship on Dailymotion, because they don't even care about copyright law under US law most of the time, the biggest censorship is if you mention other video sites. When I upload this to the site, it might get taken down. I might have to explain, hey, I'm shouting out Dailymotion too. I've had that happen 3 times, not because of a human interfering, but because of their algorithms. It's an interesting site, though. A lot of the mainline content that would be on YouTube, but copyright hit it, is still on Dailymotion. And the searchability level's relatively high. I mean, if you're looking for dubiously legal movie streaming and certain music and clips of, MTV series and stuff, Dailymotion's already got that. It's already there. The problem is audience engagement remains low. Part of this is due to one specifically obtuse feature for any major uploader, which is that monetization is enabled by default. I didn't even realize this until recently and started turning it off for new uploads. But unless you actually know to go into the advanced tab, like the average user won't do, it's riddled with ads because that's how they mainly pay for their site. You don't have as much corporate sponsorship as like a YouTube. But the site's fast and has gotten notably faster in the last year. It is a good alternative. There is an audience there. It's just that more people in the English-speaking world need to use it. And then finally, I would say Minds. Now, Minds until recently wasn't really a YouTube alternative at all. Really, the feel of it, and this is both a pro and a con depending on what kind of user you're talking about. The feel of it is, imagine WordPress or Blogger overlapped with Facebook. It's basically social media blogging, but they've added video uploading. The problem is, again, the overall search, the audience level is reasonably high. It's middling, I would say, similar to maybe like a Rumble. The total number of users on Minds is quite high. But its main format, the way in which the site is actually structured, is not so much geared towards being a video hosting site, because it's not like a channel with a panel full of videos like you'd have on YouTube or Brighteon or something. It's more like a Facebook page and it happens to have video functionality. Well, as far as actual uploading, trust me, Minds is very fast for uploading, at least in standard quality. 480, 720, whatever. Very fast. Reasonably searchable, reasonably engaged with, but the site's not overall geared towards being video hosting. Bitchute, all it is videos. Rumble, it's videos. Odyssey has other stuff. They got pictures and documents and stuff too, but it's mainly a video hosting site, I'd say. Brighteon and Dailymotion, solely videos. That's all these sites do. Minds is the black sheep of the family in that it has more functionality. This is a pro in the sense of having a standalone site that's got a lot of useful functions. It's a con if you're talking about being a replacement specifically for a site that's just about video hosting and keeps it at that. But overall, I would say all 6 of these sites are good. You should join me on all 6 of them. Try them out, see what you like best. I'm probably going to start uploading videos to Minds at some point. Just another venue to explore, at least for a while, and see what the response is. I've thought about cutting it to 4 sites total. Of course, YouTube is going to be part of that total no matter what I do. And I've only got so much time in the day and I only have so much income, so I'm not going to be hiring a staffer or anything like that to handle my video uploads, although it might be cost effective at some point. And another thing is I want to branch out more into live streaming and cut YouTube out as far as I go. I don't want to put the Sticks, X, and Yammer show on YouTube. Well, both Rumble and Bitchute are talking about how they want live streaming. I'm going to have to choose one. Though you can set up 2 computers, you can kind of stream simultaneously, I guess. You can use different software to split it. It's just most of it doesn't, it has nothing to do with Rumble or Bitchute or something. Like StreamYard, you can do Facebook video and broadcast simultaneously to YouTube if you want. But there's no option for Bitchute. I'm wondering if there's any way to manually add an option. I'm not 100% sure. Rumble or others, and I have no idea whether the others intend to have live streaming. I don't think Dailymotion does. if it did, I know it wouldn't be in high definition. So yeah, there's a little bit about these sites, and you can join me on one or more of them. That's about all. Peace out.